Ramps. A few suggestions on improving wheelchair access. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to discuss the issue of ramps. According to the Equality Act of 2010, amended in November 2017, the NHS estimates that there are 1.2 million wheelchair users in the UK. However, the latest figures from the Office for National Statistics in 2021 state that there are 9.8 million disabled people in the UK. That is 17.7% of the population, many of whom will also have reduced mobility. Good, safe access is very important to the well-being of all, for dangerous ramps can cause serious injuries to wheelchair users and those assisting them. Our aim, therefore, is to welcome everyone safely into our churches. So here's a few suggestions that might help. The first point I'd like you to consider is how easy is it for a disabled person to access the ramp. For if the church doors are closed to save energy or simply closed because they are not usually kept open, how can a wheelchair user request the ramp when they are unable to access the door? What could be done differently to solve this situation? Well, our second point is that some churches do not have anyone strong enough to lift the ramp and put it in place, thus making it impossible for an unaccompanied wheelchair user to access the church. The points to consider here is whether the ramp is of a lightweight modern construction and whether there are people available to lift it into place. In the same way, will someone be available to assist in putting the ramp back in place at the end of the service? This, of course, only applies to lightweight temporary ramps intended for wheelchair use. The next point to consider is whether the ramp in use is a wheelchair ramp, as many ramps in use in our churches are not wheelchair ramps, but are ramps to enable funeral directors to wheel biers into church. These ramps are different. They generally have no raised curbs to prevent a wheel going off the edge. As a point to consider, please look to see whether your ramp does in fact have raised edges. As with the previous point, there are many different varieties of ramp in use, some of which are not suitable due to the materials they are constructed from. For example, polished or painted wood, thin laminated wood, and the state of wear and tear upon the ramp. Consideration also needs to be given to the gradient and the landing space and whether handrails are required and properly fitted. If you have any queries on these points, please do get in contact with us at DIAG and we'll do our best to assist. Well, now it's worth considering whether you're using the right ramp for the right space. For there really is no point in having a ramp if there are steps up to it. And likewise, an animal ramp doesn't make a very good wheelchair ramp. Finally, it's essential to remember that a ramp should follow the ratio of 1 to 12. A 10 centimetre step needs a 1.2 metre ramp. A 6-inch step needs a 6-foot ramp to be safe for a manual wheelchair user. And a 1:10 ratio for an electric wheelchair. Anything less than this is unsafe and should not be used by a wheelchair user. And of course, many of our ancient churches are step access only. Where this is the case, do let us know how we can assist you and your community in finding different accessibility options.